Did you know that even after 60, a fulfilling, vital sex life isn't some far-off fantasy? It's actually within your reach right now. If you've been worried about weaker erections, or you just want that confidence and energy you had back in your 30s and 40s, then stick with me, because what I'm about to share with you today could genuinely change the way you think about your health. I'm Dr. Olivia Grant, and I've been practicing medicine for over 30 years. I've sat across from thousands of men in their 60s, 70s, even their 80s, who walked into my office embarrassed, frustrated, and honestly a little defeated. They thought what they were experiencing was just the end of the road, just something you accept when you get older, and I'm here to tell you that is flat out wrong. Now, before we dive in, I want to address something right off the bat, because I know a lot of you watching are dealing with type 2 diabetes. I hear you. I see your comments, I read your messages, and I know how discouraging it feels when every video out there seems to be talking to someone else. So I'm going to speak directly to you today too, not just the general audience, because you deserve real answers, not a one-size-fits-all script that ignores your reality. Here's the truth that nobody's saying loudly enough. The decline in erectile function that so many men over 60 experience is not simply an age problem. After more than 3 decades in this field, I can tell you with full confidence, the primary culprits are lifestyle neglect, chronic stress, poor circulation, and hormonal imbalance caused by habits that have built up over years and decades. The body, even at 65 or 75, has a remarkable, almost stubborn ability to heal itself, but it needs the right signals, and that's exactly what I'm going to give you today. We're not talking about prescriptions. We're not talking about expensive supplements with fancy labels and dubious ingredient lists. We're talking about simple, completely free morning habits that work with your body's own biology. I've recommended these to patients in my clinic for years, and the results, when people actually stick with them, are real. I'm going to walk you through 3 powerful morning habits, plus 1 critical nutrition tip that ties everything together. And yes, I'm going to circle back to what those of you with diabetes or other underlying conditions can do specifically, because this conversation needs to be more honest than what you usually find online. Let's start with the first habit. And honestly, it's so simple that most guys roll their eyes when I first mention it. But bear with me because the science here is rock solid. Get outside and get morning sunlight, just 10 to 15 minutes. Ideally within the first 30 minutes after you wake up. That's it. Step outside. No sunglasses, no glass window filtering it out. Just you and the early morning light. Now here's why this matters so much, especially for men over 60. When that soft morning light hits your eyes and your skin, it sends a direct signal to your hypothalamus. That's a small but incredibly powerful region in your brain that acts like the master control panel for your hormonal system. It regulates your circadian rhythm, it governs your sleep-wake cycle, and critically, it drives testosterone production. Testosterone. That's the word you've all heard, and yes, it matters enormously here. Testosterone is the primary hormone responsible for sexual health, vitality, muscle maintenance, mood, and energy in men, and morning sunlight is one of the most natural, most underused triggers to support healthy testosterone levels. But there's more. Sunlight exposure promotes the release of nitric oxide in the body. Now, if you haven't heard of nitric oxide before, pay close attention because this molecule is basically the key that unlocks healthy erections. Nitric oxide relaxes the smooth muscle inside your blood vessel walls, causing them to dilate, to widen, which dramatically increases blood flow throughout the entire body, including the penile tissue. A strong, healthy erection is fundamentally a blood flow event. Without adequate circulation, everything else falls apart. Morning sunlight kickstarts that entire chain reaction. I've had patients, retired guys here in the US, men who spent most of their working life indoors under fluorescent lights, who made this one change and reported noticeable improvements in energy and libido within just a few weeks. Not because sunlight is magic, but because they were finally giving their body the biological signal it had been missing for years. Make it intentional. Don't just glance out the window while you're pouring your coffee. Walk outside. Take a slow lap around the yard. Sit on the porch. Let your skin and eyes absorb that light. Think of it as the first investment you make in yourself every single morning. And for those of you with diabetes, type 1 or type 2, morning sunlight is still 100% applicable to you. In fact, There's growing research suggesting that regular morning light exposure helps regulate blood glucose patterns and supports insulin sensitivity. You're not excluded from this one. Not at all. Now let's talk about the second habit. And this one involves your breath. I know. Breathing exercises sounds like something your yoga obsessed daughter-in-law keeps pushing on you. But I promise you, what I'm describing is backed by hard neuroscience, and it takes less than 3 minutes. Every morning, take 10 slow, deep, intentional belly breaths before you do anything else. Here's what I mean by belly breaths. Place one hand on your chest, one on your stomach. When you inhale, your stomach should rise, not your chest. You're filling the lower lobes of your lungs, not just the top. Breathe in slowly through your nose for about 4 counts. Hold for a beat, then breathe out slowly through your mouth for about 6 counts. Do that 10 times. Sound simple? It is, but what's happening inside your body during those 10 breaths is anything but simple. When you breathe this way, you directly activate the vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, running from your brainstem all the way down through your chest and abdomen. The vagus nerve is the superhighway of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system responsible for rest, recovery, and, this is key, sexual arousal and function. Here's the thing that a lot of men don't realize. Chronic stress is one of the single biggest destroyers of erectile function in men over 60. When your body is stuck in fight or flight mode, which happens when cortisol, your stress hormone, stays elevated for long periods, your blood vessels constrict, your testosterone production drops, and your body essentially decides that sexual function is a non-essential luxury right now. It's prioritizing survival. Deep diaphragmatic breathing short circuits that stress response. Within just a few breaths, your heart rate slows, your blood vessels start to relax and dilate, your cortisol levels begin to drop, and your body shifts into a state where blood can flow freely and arousal becomes physiologically possible again. I tell all my male patients over 60, and especially those managing anxiety or high blood pressure alongside their sexual health concerns, that this simple breathing practice is one of the most powerful tools they have. Not because it's complicated, because it directly addresses one of the root causes that nobody talks about, the nervous system being chronically stuck in the wrong gear. For men with type 2 diabetes, I want to say this clearly. Autonomic neuropathy, nerve damage caused by long-term high blood sugar, can affect the very nerves that control erectile function. Deep, consistent breathing supports nervous system health and circulation, both of which are areas that diabetic men need to actively support. This isn't a cure, but it is a legitimate, evidence-supported practice that helps your body maintain the function it still has, and in some cases, recover function that's been partially lost. Do the 10 breaths before you get out of bed, or sitting on the edge of the mattress, or out on the porch during your morning sunlight. Stack it with habit 1 if you like. Either way, make it non-negotiable. Now here's the third habit, and this is the one that I find most men have never heard of. Or if they have, they dismissed it as something for women recovering from childbirth. I'm asking you to set that assumption aside, because the research on this is very strong for men, particularly older men. Pelvic floor exercises. Every single morning, the pelvic floor is a hammock-shaped group of muscles located at the base of your pelvis. These muscles support the bladder, bowel, and, critically, the erectile mechanism. They directly control blood flow into and out of the penile tissue. A weak pelvic floor means blood escapes the erectile chambers too quickly, which translates to weaker, shorter-lasting erections. A strong pelvic floor means more blood is retained, more pressure is maintained, and erections are firmer and longer lasting. There's also a bonus here that most guys appreciate once I explain it. A strong pelvic floor improves ejaculatory control and contributes to more intense orgasms. These aren't small quality of life improvements. For a lot of men, this is a genuine game changer. Here's how to find and train these muscles. The easiest way is to imagine you're trying to stop the flow of urine midstream. The muscles you contract to do that, those are your pelvic floor muscles. You should feel a lifting, tightening sensation internally. Your thighs, glutes, and abs should stay completely relaxed. If you're tensing those, you're compensating, and you're not getting the benefit. Once you've found the right muscles, here's the routine. Squeeze and hold for 3 to 5 seconds, then release slowly and fully. Rest for a couple of seconds. Repeat 10 to 15 times. That's one set. Do that every morning. The release is just as important as the contraction, by the way. Men tend to focus on squeezing and forget to fully let go. Full relaxation between reps is what allows fresh, oxygenated blood to flood back into the tissue. Results don't happen overnight. You're building muscle, same as if you were training your biceps at the gym. Most men start noticing meaningful changes around the 4 to 6 week mark with consistent daily practice. I've had patients in their 70s tell me that pelvic floor training gave them back something they thought was gone for good. For men with diabetes, and I want to be specific here, vascular damage from high blood sugar affects the small blood vessels in penile tissue directly. Pelvic floor training won't reverse that vascular damage. I want to be honest with you about that. But what it does do is maximize the function of whatever circulation you do have. It strengthens the muscular mechanism that retains blood during erection, which can make a meaningful functional difference even when circulation is compromised. Combined with the other habits we're talking about, especially improved blood flow from sunlight and stress reduction from breathing, the cumulative effect can be significant. Don't let anyone tell you it's all over because of your diagnosis. That's not medicine, that's giving up. Now I want to talk about what you eat in the morning because your breakfast is either working for you or against you. And most American men over 60 are making choices at the breakfast table that are quietly undermining everything else they're trying to do. The goal of your morning meal is simple. Optimize circulation, reduce systemic inflammation, and give your body the raw materials it needs to produce testosterone and nitric oxide. Let me give you the practical version. Eggs are your best friend. I don't care how many years you were told to avoid the yolk, the research has shifted substantially, and whole eggs are one of the most nutrient-dense testosterone-supporting foods available. They're packed with protein, healthy cholesterol that forms the backbone of hormone synthesis, zinc, selenium, and B vitamins. 2 eggs in the morning is a great start. Beets and dark leafy greens like spinach are what I call nitric oxide superfoods. They're loaded with natural nitrates that your body converts directly into nitric oxide, which, as we talked about earlier, is the molecule that relaxes blood vessels and drives circulation. A handful of spinach in a morning smoothie or some roasted beets if you're making a bigger breakfast can genuinely move the needle on blood flow over time. Avocado deserves a special mention. Healthy monounsaturated fats, the kind found in avocado, olive oil, and nuts, are essential for maintaining the flexibility of your blood vessel walls. Stiff, inflamed arteries don't dilate properly. Healthy fats keep those walls supple and responsive. Half an avocado on the side of your eggs in the morning is about as close to a cardiovascular health habit as you can get with food. Now here's what you need to cut out of the morning routine. Sugary cereals, pastries, white bread, flavored oatmeal packets loaded with added sugar, and those breakfast bars that are basically candy in disguise. I know they're convenient, I know they're what's in the pantry, but starting your day with a blood sugar spike triggers an insulin response, drives inflammation, and sets your energy and hormonal environment up for failure before 9 a.m. For my diabetic viewers specifically, everything I just described above is actually aligned with blood sugar management. Eggs, avocado, leafy greens, minimal processed carbohydrates. This is a breakfast that supports glycemic control and sexual health simultaneously. There's no conflict there. You don't have to choose between managing your diabetes and taking care of this part of your health. The dietary principles overlap almost completely. I also want to mention one thing that isn't food but belongs in the morning conversation: hydration. Men over 60 are chronically underhydrated, and dehydration thickens the blood, reduces circulation efficiency, and contributes to fatigue and reduced libido. Before the coffee, before anything else, drink a full glass of water when you wake up. Simple, free, massively underrated. Now I want to take a step back and speak plainly to all of you for a moment, because there's something I hear too often, both in my clinic and in the comments of videos like this, that I need to address directly. Some of you are convinced it's too late. Some of you have had a doctor, maybe even a good doctor, tell you that at your age, with your health history, with your medications, this is just what life looks like now. And I understand why you'd believe that. I understand why it's easier to accept that story than to keep trying things that haven't worked. But I've spent over 30 years watching men in their 60s, 70s, and 80s make changes, sometimes very small changes, and experience outcomes that surprised everyone, including me. The human body is not a machine that simply breaks down in a linear way. It is a living, adaptive system that responds to input right up until the very end. The habits I've described today are not miracle cures. I will never promise you a miracle cure. What I will promise you, and what the physiology fully supports, is that morning sunlight, diaphragmatic breathing, pelvic floor training, and a nourishing breakfast create a cumulative environment inside your body that supports testosterone, blood flow, nervous system health, and cellular repair, all of which have a direct, documented relationship with erectile function and sexual vitality. The absolute key to this whole thing is consistency, not perfection. Consistency. You don't have to do all four perfectly starting tomorrow. Pick one. Start with the sunlight, since it costs you nothing and takes zero effort. Do it every morning for 2 weeks, then add the breathing, then the pelvic floor exercises. Build it like a habit stack, one layer at a time. And for those of you who are managing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, or any other chronic condition, please don't self-exclude from this conversation. Talk to your doctor about these habits specifically, not just is this safe in a general sense, but walk them through each one and ask how it fits your personal picture. And if your doctor dismisses the conversation entirely, that's actually useful information about whether you need a second opinion. Sexual health is not a vanity issue. It is not a trivial concern that men should be embarrassed to bring up. It is a core component of physical and emotional well-being. Testosterone isn't just about sex. It's about muscle mass, bone density, mood, cognitive function, and metabolic health. When we support it naturally, we're not just improving one aspect of life, we're improving the whole system. And the emotional dimension of this matters just as much as the physical one. I've watched men regain not just physical function, but their sense of self, their confidence in intimate relationships, their willingness to be present and engaged with their partners. That ripple effect through every corner of a man's life. That's what we're really talking about here. So here's what I want you to do. Tomorrow morning, when the alarm goes off, before you reach for your phone and start scrolling through the news, get outside. 30 minutes after waking up. Let the sunlight hit your face for 10 minutes. Come back inside, sit down, and do 10 slow belly breaths. Then, while you're at it, run through one set of pelvic floor holds. Then make yourself a real breakfast. 2 eggs, some spinach, half an avocado. That whole morning routine, start to finish, takes maybe 25 to 30 minutes. And it is one of the most powerful investments in your long-term health that you can make. You have more control over this than you've been led to believe. The answers are not always in a prescription bottle. Sometimes, often, they're in the choices you make before 8 a.m. Take care of yourself. You've earned it, and you're absolutely worth it.